Hey everyone, if you want to get a text message every time we put out a new episode of the Mindset Digital Podcast, all you have to do is go to your phone and text the word MSD Pod, that's all one word, MSD Pod, to 555-888. And we'll shoot you a text every time we put out a new episode. Good times.
Now loading the Mindset Digital Podcast.
Shall we begin? Let's begin now.
From the three-car pileup of social media, learning, and technology, it's the Mindset Digital Podcast. Instagram copies stories from Snapchat, but has the student become the master? Two of our office millennials prepare to throw down while creative director Pete Brown makes half-baked attempts to solve their differences with obtuse metaphors. Plus, we have an update to our episode 16 review of savings app, Digit. Let's get things started. Here's our very own obtuse metaphor creative director, Pete Brown.
Thanks, Briavel. You know, back when I was in graduate school, I had a housemate who went by the nickname of Box. And what I liked about Box was whenever you saw him, he didn't say, "How's it going?" or "What's up?" He'd always say, "What's going on?" Just like that. He'd be like, "How you doing, Box?" And he'd be like, "What's going on?" Just answered your question with a question. But what I like about the question, "What's going on?" is it sort of speaks to a larger period of time. I mean, when you ask somebody what's up, they generally answer what's up in that moment. Or how you doing? How am I doing right now? But what's going on is like, hey, some time has passed since I've seen you. What's going on? And so what you do is you try and serve up a couple of highlights or a couple of key points from, the last little bit of time since you've seen this person. And in my first stretch of logic today, I want to compare that question, "What's going on?" to the idea of stories on Snapchat and Instagram. Because if you're really active on Snapchat, you're snapping things all day long. Picture here, a funny thing there, snap, 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 and sending them out. But you don't add all of those things to your story. Not if you want people to watch it. Instead, you sort of pick the ones you like best and you add those to your story. And then if we're connected on Snapchat, I can click on your story and I just see these moments that you've selected from the past 24 hours. In other words, the Snapchat story is a digital answer to the question, "What's going on?" Stories became very popular shortly after Snapchat launched them. And as happens in the world of social media platforms, Instagram then basically cloned the feature. They created their own version of it, Instagram Stories. Now, when this kind of copying happens, sometimes it works out for the network, sometimes it doesn't. In Instagram's case, it appears that it has. Instagram reports more than 200 million daily active users using stories. If you go into Instagram app, by the way, and you don't see stories, you need to update the app, which is something I had to do before we recorded today's podcast. Two millennials are my guests today, Danika Stahl and Matt Weiner. And they pitched the idea of this podcast to me because when it came down to Instagram stories versus Snapchat stories, they assured me that they had a pretty distinct divergence of opinion. And we thought the best way to sort of work through this difference or at least explore it would be live on the podcast. So we spent a good bit of time digging in to Snapchat stories and Instagram stories, and not to sound too clickbaity, but in the second stretch of human logic that I make a very long and detailed comparison of these two platforms to cargo trucks. You're not going to want to miss it. It's the best cargo truck to social media platform metaphor you're likely to hear all year. Plus, we have an update in today's show. This is an update to episode 16, in which Morgan Mulgrew walked me through the app Digit that she uses to automate her savings. Well, Briavel, yes, the same Briavel from the up tops and the outros, tried it out, and we visited for a few minutes so she could tell me about her experiences with Digit, which were markedly different than Morgan's.
Is that all you got?
Let's begin now.
Alrighty, so I have in the studio with me now Danika Stahl. Hi, Danika.
Hey, Pete.
Danika, former fast-working intern, managing our social feed and our blog. And we were supposed to record this yesterday, but we couldn't, Danika, because you didn't come to work because...
My sister had a baby.
Congratulations to Danika's sister. What kind of baby was it? Like a boy or a girl?
A girl.
A girl. Nice. Did she name it yet?
Yeah, she named it Evie, but everybody keeps sending me texts and asking me if she named it Earthside, based on a really poorly worded Instagram post. So.
I gotcha. Well, we'll have to dig into that, I think, in another episode about Instagram wording.
Yeah.
Evie, but I like that name. And so now you are Aunt Danika.
Probably Tita, but yeah.
And is this your first niece or nephew?
Yes, this will be my first.
Well, congrats. I'm glad that everything went well.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm pretty glad too.
And of course, joining me now is Matthew Weiner.
Hey, Pete, you can just call me Weiner.
I appreciate that, Weiner. Yeah, you were here at work yesterday, but you've been awfully busy running around.
Yeah.
He says, he's shaking his head. You actually look a little bit tired to me today, Weiner. Getting enough sleep?
No, it's been a rough few weeks, but feel productive.
Here's why I'm excited about today's podcast. First of all, I am not entirely sure what we're going to be talking about, so there's that sense of mystery. But secondly, every great story hinges on having conflict. And as I understand it, there is some conflict of opinion between you two around stories.
That's true, particularly on Instagram.
Okay, so who wants to outline what's going on here?
Matt does.
Thanks, Weiner. Just pretend I'm your grandma.
Okay,
Break
sure.
it down.
So, Instagram, which is owned by Facebook, has continued in the tradition of every other social media platform ripping off Snapchat's popular features and taking them for their own.
Okay.
And this includes Snapchat Stories, which is a pretty big part of the app, which is, in addition to, so for Instagram, in addition to your regular post, you can string together a short story about your day.
Okay, yeah. So on Snapchat, how this works, you're making snaps and you can add a snap to your story.
Right.
And it shows you about the last 24 hours.
The last 24 hours, that's right.
So my daughter has been in Washington, D.C. with the 8th grade D.C. trip this week. So and she has not reached out once to say going well, but I've been watching her story and it seems like she's having a good time.
Yeah. So the interesting thing with Instagram and this feature is that this time it really took off for Instagram versus Snapchat.
Okay.
So even though Snapchat sort of, pioneered this wildly popular feature on social, Instagram is now, I think, at like 200 million daily uses for these stories.
Well, let's check in here. Danika, you have been building our Instagram feed here at Mindset Digital, and actually we've had some good growth recently.
Yes,
we
have.
What have you been doing to get that growth?
Actually tagging posts, first of all.
Nice. That always helps.
Yep, using images that are in focus.
Okay.
And I have experimented a little bit with stories. They don't get as much engagement as our posts do.
Okay.
But I don't know. It's interesting because I didn't think anyone would watch our stories to begin with, but people do.
So we post things on Instagram. We can add them to our story. Can I just add something to my story without it being on my Instagram feed?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Again, the nodding is good, but
yeah. And
I'm thinking about videotaping one of these.
We should. You can see the panicked look on either of our faces.
No, that would be good. We should videotape it and then put that
on YouTube,
on the YouTube instead, and we won't edit it.
Yeah. Let's do that next time. We will.
Yeah.
Okay.
So another, just throwing it out, another interesting part of Instagram stories versus Snapchat is Instagram has really made it a lot less obvious. Really not obvious at all if you're not putting up your story live, right? Like the idea of Snapchat stories is you're filming this live, and if you update content to your story from your camera roll or saved in your Snap roll, which you can do, it would flag it as, this is like
older.
Yeah. Now, I want to say just this week, Snapchat has started to remove some of the borders, making it a little bit less obvious that this is from your camera feed.
Yeah.
And I wonder if part of that is in reaction to, Instagram has offered, especially brands and celebrities, a sort of way to look a lot more polished, even though it's supposed to feel like it's in the now. I wonder if that's why Instagram stories have been caught on a little bit more than Snapchat.
So if I'm a big celebrity, and I have 14 followers on Instagram, and I want it to seem like my life is always awesome, right? On Snapchat, there is that sort of rawness to the content I make.
Right.
And on Instagram, I can polish it up and then pass it off as if it were raw.
Exactly. Yeah, you can make your stage photos look a lot more immediate.
I mean, the lies just get bigger and bigger, don't they?
And those lies are popular.
Okay. All right. So you two, what's the conflict here? What's the difference of opinion?
I don't remember. I think it had to do
You
with.
guys pitched this to me as saying,
That
Matt
was
and I
2 weeks
disagree.
ago. We did.
I think it was that we disagreed because of the way we were using the two platforms.
Okay.
So when I build my Snapchat stories, they're very. They are very raw, like you were saying.
Yeah.
They're like me singing in the car
Yeah.
and like playing with my dogs and stuff.
Yeah.
And on Instagram, I don't post stuff like that, mostly
Right.
because the people who follow me there aren't people I know as
Mm-hmm.
intimately, so it doesn't make sense. So everything I put on there is more curated. It's
Sure.
more pictures of food that I wouldn't want permanently on my Instagram feed.
Yeah. Just letting everyone know, today's episode is sponsored by the train that is going by outside. Being old railroad. All right. And Weiner?
I can't remember where we disagreed now.
Maybe you changed your mind.
No,
Did
no.
you?
So, Weiner, it does seem like you are a little bit put off by the cloning of Snapchat features.
It is. Well, maybe that's where it is, because I haven't really used Instagram stories. I've tried, and I think my heart is just with Snapchat.
Yeah.
Even though I have noticed, I mean, pretty much everyone I'm friends with on Instagram, the stories seem to be getting more and more popular each day.
I watch your Snapchat stories, Weiner. I mean, they're usually sometimes you're seeing a band or you're somewhere. So it's it's not 8th grade DC trip good, but it's decent content.
It's close. Yeah.
So, but do you think it's because you are on the older end of being a millennial that you're like, I'm all Snapchat. I'm not going for Instagram.
I don't know. Well, because I love Instagram. I mean, Instagram and Snapchat are really the two
Networks.
they're the two networks I use. I mean, especially for visual. I mean,
Sure.
I'm also big on. Yeah, I like Twitter a lot, but I'm more lurking there and following the news. I don't really do as much posting on Twitter.
Sure. Okay. And
I post a lot on Instagram. I don't know what it is that like the stories just haven't caught on for me.
Well, I really like them, and I think maybe that's what we disagreed on, whether
you
or not
like
they
the
continue to
Snapchat?
grow.
You
don't
like
like
the Instagram stories.
Yeah,
so,
Instagram stories. I like them a lot more than Snapchat. And like I've been seeing like my friends and stuff, they're not on Snapchat as much. I mean, I still use it a lot.
Yeah.
But what I've been doing recently is I'll take some of the ideas I've had for Snapchat and I'll refine them and reuse them on
Interesting.
Instagram instead.
Okay. Does does Instagram give you the little tools like adding stickers and things like that?
Yeah, but they're like they don't have super fun filters or anything. It's less gimmicky, I guess.
You mean less fun?
Well, let's think of this. We have talked about Instagram on this podcast and on our blog as sort of being your personal visual hall of fame. Mm-hmm. I don't think you use it that way, Weiner, but
Instagram, yeah.
I wrote a post, I think last month, about how my daughter, who comes up often, but she's in middle school and they just decide how everything works. She had hundreds of photos and then she went through this phase where she just got down to her 10 favorite and she constantly just keeps 10 photos on there. But it sounds like with Snap or with Instagram stories, Danika, what you're saying is, maybe I have an idea and Snapchat feels a little bit too raw. I want to give it some more polish. So I'm going to do it on Instagram.
Yeah, it gives you a new opportunity. And like just a thought I had, people aren't using it the same way they used to either. Like there are a lot of just meme accounts now. So I think that's made me feel more comfortable posting ideas that were born on Snapchat onto this platform instead.
Yeah, I gotcha. Are your audiences about the same size?
Definitely not. No. They're both pretty small. I have almost 200 on Instagram. And then on Snapchat, I probably have like maybe 50 people that I talk to, that watch my stories. But I only have like 10 people I actually consistently send snaps to.
Yeah.
That's a lot better than I'm doing. Although I have about like 15 people that watch my stories.
And Weiner, what's your Snapchat score now?
Oh, let's see. It is 21,540.
Wow, congrats.
Mine's never accurate because it always ends up freezing and then I have to delete the app and add it again.
Yeah.
It is the poor carpenter who blames her tools.
Whatever.
Well, I have been using Snapchat a lot more because I started a streak with both of my kids. And I kind of consider it a parenting scoreboard. So when my wife says, you're never here, you're always at work, you're emotionally unavailable, your kids need you, I can just show her this scoreboard, which clearly indicates I have at least one interaction with them every day. So I'm up to 12 days with my son and 6 days with my daughter.
That's great. I don't do that with my mom, but like on Instagram, we always like each other's photos and it makes me feel really close to her.
Yeah.
Hers are mostly of mushrooms, but...
Yeah, she's a mushroom hunter, as we have discussed on this podcast also. Okay, so the conflict did not turn out as well as I had hoped, but I feel like we had some moderately intelligent things to say about these, about this. And Weiner, you said Instagram stories have taken off.
Yeah.
And do you know why? Do you just guess?
I mean, my guess is the fact that you can be more curated with your Instagram stories. And I mean, part of it could just be, if that's where your social graph is, if you've got more followers on Instagram. And I think it's right. I mean, you're going to have probably more people that you're tangentially connected to on Instagram. Like Snapchat really is, it's your network. I mean, I don't know about you, Danika, with your 50 people following you, but you probably don't have as many strangers coming across your snaps, right? Whereas you can get that.
Not really. I mean, I've posted my Snapchat before in like Reddit threads and stuff, and there are some weirdos from there.
Why?
Back in the day. But yeah, it's mostly people you know. But I also think that part of it is because Instagram also, it's, I don't want to say it's more visual, but it like, when you compare it to other stuff like Facebook or something, it was like really the place where people first started posting photos and stuff. And you can compare the two and look at Facebook stories, which new ripoff. They suck.
Okay.
No one's using
How do those work?
Nobody knows because no one's using it.
Okay.
Yeah, that was one thing we wanted to. Yeah, we both agree that Facebook stories are sad and comical.
Well, I remember when Instagram first came out, before it was even acquired by Facebook, it was the filters that we all thought was really neat. And this idea that it was a social network on its own seemed a little bit secondary, and then it just sort of took off, right?
Maybe what we disagreed on was which platform we liked more. Do you like Snapchat more?
Well,
for stories specifically.
I like Snapchat for stories.
Okay, I think that was it.
I do not. I don't know.
Okay.
Instagram stories just isn't. It's not working for me. We'll see.
Are you guys ready for me to tell a long, tangential, and possibly boring story that I'm sure to cut from the episode?
That sounds great.
Okay, so have you guys seen like these big Ford Transit vans that they have now? You know, they kind of have replaced the boxy cargo van.
The square ones?
Yeah.
Like that remind you of the van your grandma used to have?
That's right.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, so they've been selling these. Ford has one, Dodge has one for a couple of years. Years ago, there was one that looked just like them called a Sprinter. And if you wanted a van like this, you bought a Sprinter. Now the other companies have picked up and started putting out their own versions of them. So I'm driving on I-71 and one of these passes me and it's a Sprinter. And on the back, a guy has like gone to Lowe's and gotten letters, like wooden letters, and spelled out, I drive the innovator, not the duplicator. Like he was so intensely invested that he had made this decision to buy the original probably before Ford came out with theirs, that he wants random people on the highway to know, to the point of really taking some time to stick these letters on the back of his van. And so, how is this related to our discussion? The Sprinter is Snapchat. The guy is Weiner, right? And these new Ford vans are Instagram. What do you think?
I can see that.
Yeah.
For story, I mean, I love Instagram.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But
the stories.
It's not, these networks don't really, like if you walk around saying I love Instagram, it's not like you're being allied with a brand in a certain way, right? It's not like saying I'm a Pepsi person to say I'm an Instagram person. Is it?
I don't know. I think it kind of is.
Is it?
Yeah, I think it does too.
Like,
Although maybe not. All these people just casually switching over to Instagram stories.
Yeah.
No loyalty these days.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of the people that I follow on Instagram are like business owners and stuff, and it's just easier because
Yeah.
you get their feed and their story all in the same place, and like having to switch back and forth is actually super annoying.
Yeah.
Plus, you never know what their Snapchat handle is, so you can't find them. And like, it's just easier to discover stuff through stories on Instagram too, because no offense, Snapchat, if you're listening, but your Discover sucks.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, it's all about
Even
Kylie Jenner.
Even I have used this enough to know that that's terrible, and I think my score is maybe 200. So, okay. So this was a good talk. I appreciate you guys coming in. Next time we're going to go for more conflict. Right, we're going to see what it's like to really put out a podcast with a divergence
This was
of
a lot
opinion.
of conflict for us.
I mean, I could start a fight with that.
That would be great. We need something, right? We need something to break that 40 mark of downloads. So, and I think we'll videotape the next one too and put it on YouTube and just see how that goes. Okay.
Yeah.
So I appreciate. Was this fun for you guys? You like this one?
Yeah.
Okay. I appreciate you because I know the podcast always gets put off when real work comes in. So I'm glad we got this one in. And Weiner, you haven't been on in a long time,
No, I'm
and
glad to be back.
our 40 fans are asking where you are. So I did have lunch today with someone who listens to the podcast, and he did mention that Weiner hasn't been on in a while.
Well, this is good. We can stop using that "Where's Weiner" hashtag because we were getting some very mixed results.
That is awesome. Okay, guys, thanks for coming in, and we'll talk again.
Thanks, Pete.
Yeah. Thanks, Pete.
Good times. So I'm here with Briavel Schultz. We, for some reason, are at opposite microphones. That feels really weird to me.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, we can switch if you want.
No, it's all right.
Okay.
We'll stick with it. But you had shared with me, now we had done a whole episode on the app Digit, which
Right.
helps you save, and then you tried it out. Is that right?
Yes.
And tell me how it went.
Okay, so I listened to that episode and I was like, oh my gosh, this app sounds amazing. I need it. So I downloaded it.
Yeah.
And so maybe part of the problem here, maybe there was some intro guide that I didn't read somewhere, but I just downloaded it right from the store.
I gotcha.
And so from the beginning, it was doing a really nice job of exactly what Morgan said, where it will take like $1 or $2 out.
How long did it take you to kind of get it set up?
Very fast.
Okay.
Very fast. Well, let's see. It you download it, and then it analyzes you for 3 days.
Oh, okay.
And then it starts pulling money
Okay.
little bit by little bit. And I was like, this is perfect. But I was like, but I needed to be a little more aggressive because I have some major goals this summer.
Yeah, I gotcha. Some big life expenses.
Some big life expenses.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, Digit, let's do this. I want to save $700 by July 1st. Just
Okay.
like if you need to take it out in chunks of 5s or 10s,
Right.
like do that. That
Yeah.
was my assumption.
Sure.
Because I had gotten used to this, it incrementally
That's right.
pulls things.
And just to clarify,
Yeah.
you said that by tapping $700 into the app. You don't talk to it.
You don't talk to it, right? No, but you're kind of talking to it
Yeah.
because you're text messaging with its bot.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and so it gives you suggested texts like, oh,
Okay.
text me this, text me that. And so it said, text me Bill. And so I texted Bill, and I was like, Bill for $700. And it's like, great, we'll try to squirrel away this much by July
Okay.
1st. So as soon as Digit met my first paycheck
Yeah.
that it had seen,
Yeah.
it immediately took out $700
Nice.
from that paycheck.
Well, it's super efficient.
I know. And
One
it was
and done, dropping the mic.
exactly. And Digit sent me this message, and it was like, hey, we completed your goal 90 days in advance. And I was like, you what? I was like, that's cool. I kind of need that for like rent or
Yeah.
student loans.
Food.
So that just completely took me by surprise because I guess it had only analyzed me for 3 days.
Sure.
And here I'm thinking that it's going back and analyzing my spending history
Right.
for months.
Right. And
knowing
so
that.
probably in those 3 days, it didn't see a paycheck come in. And then
didn't see
suddenly this big influx of cash came in.
Right. In those 3 days, it didn't see a paycheck. It didn't see expenses. And here I am thinking, oh, it knows that rent is due on the 1st.
Yeah.
and it didn't. No.
So how did you undo this?
I sent them a very angry customer support email, which did nothing. That's okay. But I immediately closed Digit, and then it said, "Great, you'll have your money back in 6 days."
Oh my gosh!
And I was like, "Great, thanks."
So it's not as simple as just sending a text back to the bot saying,
Thanks,
give me this much money back.
Yeah, no, it wasn't, and I don't know if it's just because it was for a large amount.
Yeah.
But I think what happened was that, so when it's just doing its little autosave thing,
right,
that is lovely.
Yes.
Because it's just like Morgan said, you don't
right.
notice it. It's
right.
beautiful. And I think if I had put goal instead of bill, maybe it would have been okay. But I think for bill, it was like, oh my God, you have a bill due.
Sure.
Like we need to figure this out now. So
okay, so it does what it's supposed to pretty well,
right?
And you're willing to sort of share the doofusdom between what you asked for and what the app did,
right? And I don't know if I just missed something, but it was like, would you like to text me goal or bill or save? And I was like, oh, bill, that's perfect. Let's get this set up.
And did they respond to your email at all?
No.
Okay.
No.
So what's the word to the wise for people who are going to try out Digit?
Be careful with the bill function.
Sure.
And I would say set it up for a little amount.
Yeah.
And maybe hang out with Digit for like a month before you put in a big amount.
Well, that makes sense. Okay. Then last question, do you need to borrow some money?
No. Okay. My student loans was a little late, but that's okay. It's all good.
All right. Well, I'm glad you shared that with me because I like the idea that our podcast continued to live on, right?
You're right.
So very good. So I think we're going to add this to the end of the Digit episode, but then we'll also add it to an upcoming episode. So.
Cool. Sounds good.
All right. Good times. So I'm going to see you. I know we're recording for another episode in just a few minutes.
Cool. Good times.
Okay, my thanks again to Matt Weiner, Danika Stahl, and Briavel Schultz, all for appearing on today's episode. That was a fun one. I enjoyed it. We'll be back soon with another episode. Until then, Briavel, take us home.
The Mindset Digital podcast is brought to you by Mindset Digital. We bring workforces up to speed in our fast-forward digital world. If you like the show, please recommend us to a friend, or even better, leave us a review on iTunes. It really helps. Have questions, comments, or ideas about the podcast you want to share with our team? Send them to podcast@mindsetdigital.com. This episode was produced by Pete Brown, Jessica James, and me, Briavel Schultz, and featured myself, Matt Weiner, and Danika Stahl. Audio mixing was done by Jeff Geller at Allegro Media Design. Some music in today's show is courtesy of the website audionautics.com and is licensed under Creative Commons 3.0 license.